Now, game week 22 might be over a week away, but that doesn't stop me making some videos for you guys. What I thought I'd do today is a mini early preview of the game week, all the stats, all the information you need for game week 22. So stick with me and I'll take you through it all. Okay, so up first is Drafthound's top players for expected points. I think this is one of the most important statistics to look at the beginning of every game week, just to understand who the top captaincies are and who the top transfers in are. Top of the list, according to Drafthound, is Marcus Rashford. Second, Bruno Fernandes. Third is Luke Shaw, Rodrigo, Wan-Bissaka, Eriksen, Varane, Antony, Martinez, Casemiro and Harrison. No surprise really, the list is dominated by both Man United and Leeds. It's still yet to be confirmed whether they have a double game week, but it's definitely more likely than not. So much so that FPL have gone in and considered them to have a double game week. Rashford tops the list, and I think if you've still got your triple captain in hand, I'm very jealous of you, because I used mine in game week 20 on Erling Haaland, not really expecting any more decent opportunities for a triple captain to come out, but I think Crystal Palace and Leeds, they're great fixtures for Rashford, who is just absolutely on fire at the moment. I could see him scoring multiple goals in both these games and being a great triple captain pick. And just due to the fact that his ownership is slightly lower than Haaland's as well, it means you're probably going to gain yourself more points when he does return as a triple captain than you would have done if you had Haaland in game week 20. So it's looking like a really good week to triple captain Marcus Rashford. I'll talk a little bit about Bruno Fernandes on a later slide, and then Shaw and Rodrigo, the next two, I think probably worth talking about. Shaw, he didn't play in the Cup against Nottingham Forest. I think it's probably just a precautionary thing, and the manager said he was ill. I think he'll be all right for 22, and he's probably, of all the Man United defenders, I think probably, along with Martinez maybe, the safest pick to play both of the games. And then you've got Rodrigo for Leeds, their leading light, their talisman on the penalties. He obviously plays Man United at Old Trafford in that double, but he's got Forest away in the first one, and I think he's a really exciting option too. Wan-Bissaka, I'd caveat him a little bit, just due to the fitness of Diogo Dalot. I think it's likely that Dalot's going to be back for game week, well, maybe back on the bench for the first fixture of 22, and then in contention to start against Leeds. If he wasn't in that position and he was injured, I'd absolutely say Wan-Bissaka was a nailed-on pick for my team, but I think his minutes are in doubt for both of those fixtures, so I think I'd stay away from him. And then the rest of the list, you can take a look at that for yourself and draw your own conclusions. But to start things off, these are your expected points totals for game week 22. Now, next up are the clean sheet odds. So top of the tree, really it should be Man United on this ranking. I'm not quite sure why they're not top on this, but yeah. First game, Crystal Palace, 55% clean sheet odds. Second game, Leeds, 41% clean sheet odds. So I think if you combine the two, obviously it doesn't quite work out like adding up percentages as Drafthound have done on the right, but essentially you can pretty much back across the two fixtures that Man United are going to keep a clean sheet. Arsenal also 55% chance of a clean sheet, so you'd be happy to start an Arsenal defender this week, along with Brighton on 52% against Bournemouth as well. Other teams I think are noteworthy: Newcastle on 48, Chelsea on 45, Villa on 38, Brentford, Liverpool and Man City as well. I think all of these teams you can say are not necessarily more likely than not, but definitely in contention to keep a clean sheet. The rest of these teams on the list, I don't really think you can back the clean sheet at all. What I'd also thought I'd do is just pull off the top goalkeepers, 5 top goalkeepers for the week from Drafthound. Maybe you've got 2 good goalkeepers on the bench and deciding who to start, or maybe you've got a goalkeeper you're not happy with and considering making a goalkeeper transfer. Top of the list, obviously with the double and the 96% combined clean sheet odds, is David De Gea. Second is Meslier. I personally don't actually back Leeds to keep a clean sheet in either of those fixtures. I think Forest and United, both being away games, I think they're likely to score against Leeds. But Meslier is always propped up by the fact that he's one of the leading saves makers in the Premier League. And for that reason, I think he's still a decent option. Kepa, Ramsdale and Sanchez finish off the 5. Pretty even points between them. I would suggest that if you have Kepa and you were considering getting rid of him, Personally, I think Chelsea are looking a bit better defensively, but I don't think there's enough points difference between him and De Gea to justify it. As I mentioned before, I think there's a bit of doubt around, not doubt, but I think there's going to be some rotation amongst that Man United back four, and I think De Gea, obviously he's the safest, he's going to play every game, so that would be the reason you bring him in. But I suggest if you already had Kepa, probably not worth the transfer. But anyway, here's your clean sheet, odds, and top goalkeepers for points. I've got a controversial opinion to give next up, and that's all around Bruno Fernandes. Mentioned earlier that I was going to talk about him in a later piece, and here it is. I personally don't think he's a great option in FPL. Now hear me out. Obviously, he has done really well in the last few game weeks. The goal he scored against Man City arguably could have been offside, and then I would suggest the rest of the goals that he scored in the last period have been really low XG chances. Now, I don't really take a side in terms of analytics versus grass FC, but I do think that Bruno, certainly over the last few weeks, has been really overperforming his underlying numbers, and he's going to revert to the norm sometime soon, and I think that could well be in game week 22. Personally, I think his returns are also dependent on the position that he's playing in. When he plays against the stronger opposition, the manager plays him more advanced. He's part of that front three. But when Man United play a weaker opposition, and no disrespect to Palace and Leeds, but some of the games that Man United have played recently, obviously Man City, Crystal Palace and Leeds, probably not on that level. And when they play the weaker opposition, Ten Hag likes to line up in a 4-3-3 with Bruno much deeper in the midfield. And for that reason, I just not sold on him as an option for 22. Another thing to note, it might just have been he was being nice and giving Marcus Rashford the penalty to keep his goal record up. But the last time Man United had a penalty, both Bruno and Rashford were on the pitch and Rashford took it. And the last penalty that Bruno took was against Aston Villa, which he missed. That makes me think that he could well be off penalties. It's not confirmed, we don't know that for sure, but just another bit of fire to the Bruno Fernandes debate. I don't think he's a great option personally. You can take my opinion with a pinch of salt. Let me know what you think in the comments, because difference of opinion is what FPL is all about. Next up is just some fixture news. It's quite similar to what I reported last week, really. I don't think there's anything particularly new coming out of it. And as always, when it comes to fixtures, my source of this information is Ben Krellin on Twitter. So if you don't already follow Ben, absolutely do. I'm not going to take any credit for being the one that thought up this fixture news. I'm simply reconveying what Ben has already said. But double game week 22 is likely to happen. It's not absolutely set in stone yet because it depends on some other cup results, but it's looking likely that Man United and Leeds will double in 22. So much so, FPL have already confirmed it, but it's not necessarily set in stone yet. Game week 23. Obviously, we've got the double for Man City and Arsenal. In game week 25, we will have a blank game week. So the two fixtures involving the two teams that reach the EFL or Carabao Cup final will blank. Based on results that have happened so far, both Man United and Newcastle have a decent lead in both of their ties. So it's looking like Man United, Brentford and Newcastle, Brighton will blank in 25. But I also saw there's a chance that Newcastle and Brighton will still play each other in midweek in 25. We'll know all this before the game week 22 deadline, but this is just the state of play as it is now. So I definitely don't think we should be making any early transfers until this kind of thing is confirmed. In game week 28, we're also expecting another blank game week, another double expected in 29, a blank expected again in 32, and then some more doubles in 34 and 37. I think the key terms really when it comes to fixtures is Brighton seem to be the team that are most likely to get doubles post the game week 25 blank. And it's also looking like they could well play in 25 as well. So Brighton assets, definitely worth bringing them in, especially if they're confirmed to have a game in 25. Obviously, they don't double in 22 and 23, but that doesn't really matter. I don't think they're still great options. So, yeah, Brighton the team to target in terms of doubles. And then next up, I just wanted to have a look at how my team is looking and some potential transfers that I could be making in upcoming game weeks. And, of course, in game week 22. I've got 84 expected points in 22, which I think is a really good total. It's obviously propped up by the fact that I've got 3 double game week players. As I mentioned, I'm not a massive fan of Bruno Fernandes, so he doesn't currently have a place in my team. I'm going to stick with Kepa in goal. He's been reliable in the last 2 fixtures. It looks like after the signing of Badiashile, Chelsea have turned things round defensively a bit. So I'm going to stick with Kepa in the hopes that he can keep a clean O against Fulham, especially considering, as you can see there, Mitrovic is amber flagged as a doubt. Trippier, White and Shaw finish off the back 4. I think Newcastle looking likely to keep a clean sheet against West Ham, and obviously Trippier is just a steady Eddie when it comes to bonus points in FPL, so yeah, I expect Trippier to do well. Ben White, Arsenal top the list, 55% I think it said, clean sheet odds against Everton, and then Luke Shaw as well with his double game week. Even if he plays just one of those fixtures, I think he's worth starting, so for that reason that's why I've gone with that back line. I've got De Bruyne, Saka, Martinelli and Rashford in my midfield. Kevin De Bruyne is just going to play in my team every week pretty much. I might have a plan to sell him in the future in order to facilitate a move to Harry Kane, but for now De Bruyne's place in my team is safe. Of course, with the double in 23 coming up, it's really not possible to sell him for me. Saka and Martinelli in midfield. Little bit of doubt surrounding Saka and Martinelli now, given the signing of Trossard. Might well affect his minutes a bit, and maybe next week it could well be worth a sideways move to Odegaard. And as you can see to the right of me, Drafthound are making a recommendation that I could well do that transfer, given that it's worth 3 points at the moment over the next 3 game weeks, so not massive, but definitely worth considering. And then, as I said, I wish I had my triple captain left to give to Marcus Rashford this week. And if that double is confirmed, I'll absolutely have Marcus Rashford as my captain. Haaland, Mitrovic and Gnonto are my current front 3. Brought in Gnonto for Martial last week just with this double in mind. And obviously, if Gnonto doesn't play or completely falls off, he can just rot away on my bench for 5 million. I don't really care. Mitrovic, really have to monitor him for fitness. He came off last weekend with the recurring ankle injury that bothered him for the World Cup. Hopefully the 2 weeks off give him enough time to get back into the fray, and I don't have to use a transfer to take him out. Options if he does miss it, I think I could go for Wout Weghorst for United, especially if Martial appears to still be a doubt, because Weghorst could well start the 2 fixtures in 22, but remains to be seen what happens there. Otherwise, to be completely honest, I think I might just roll this game week and have 2 transfers going into game week 23 to really change my team up. But yeah, that's where I sit at the moment. And then similar to the fixtures analysis, I'm not going to take any credit for being the first one to think up a chip strategy for this season, because FPL Raptor, if you've not seen it already, he's released a fantastic video this week talking all about his wildcard transfer plans and, of course, chip strategy. And I've been inspired by his video to suggest what my chip strategy could well be based on the fixtures that we saw on an earlier slide. So unfortunately, I've already used my triple captain. That's gone in game week 20, and I used it on Haaland to really no avail. Obviously, he returned, so it could have been worse and he could have blanked. But I think Rashford this week, of all the times I've seen this season, he is my favourite opportunity for a triple captain, especially if that double is confirmed. We need that double to be confirmed, of course, for him to be the triple captain. But if they do double, I think he's the best triple captain shout of the season so far. As I said earlier, the reason is Rashford is far less owned than Haaland is. And if you were to score really well on a triple captain for a less owned player, the points are going to be worth more because less players have him. So for that reason, I think Rashford's a great shout for a triple captain in game week 20. On top of that, free hit, I'm going to use that in 29, I think, for the double game week there. My team probably it's not already in an ideal position, but I think come game week 29, it's going to be worth the free hit. Probably going to wild card in game week 33. There's a blank in game week 32, so I'm probably going to just dead end my team into that and then bring the wild card in for 33. Get ready for my bench boost in 34 or 37 with that wildcard team. And yeah, of course, doubles coming up in 34 and 37. They seem like a good opportunity to play the bench boost. So this is my rough chip strategy at the moment. And to be honest, I'm glad I've left them right until the bitter end. I was a little bit worried that, I hung on for them for too long. But thankfully, end of the season brings lots of opportunities to use these chips. And yeah, I think I'll be doing that. And there we go, quick little preview ahead of Game Week 22. If you enjoyed the video, as it was saying on the ticker below me, please leave a like rating, subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, set your bell notifications to be notified when we upload for FPL. I'm going to put out 2 FPL videos a week for the remainder of the season along this line. If you found it useful, yeah, I'd be absolutely very grateful if you subscribe to the channel. We also have a Discord where you can talk to like-minded FPL players in various group chats that we've got. There's a link in the description for you to join that. And if you would like to support the channel, we currently have some new merchandise, so you can buy yourself a branded Golden Goal mug or a sticker. So you can check that out on our Spreadshirt store, which will also be in the description. I'll see you in the next video.